this idiot atheist reads Bible literature, whatever. These Bible Christians fell through compromise. You see those oranges and that one rotten one? These Bible characters fell through compromise by Dr. John R. Rice. And of course, I do have a question though before we start. For those of you that do believe in a God, I'm not talking about those that go to church or mosque or whatever. I'm talking about you believe that there's a God. You believe in a Christian God if you live in a Western country. Okay. How do you think that you or your loved ones are going to go to heaven if that Bible that tells you about your supposed God tells you what you have to do and not one of you are doing it? I'm just curious, you know, because let's face it, there's a reason why they tell you in churches that like 99% of everybody's going to hell, or 90 or whatever the hell that number is. Because you have to be saved, you have to accept Jesus as your Savior, died on the cross for you, and all this crap. And of course, some religions you got to do more than that. You know, you go to Catholic Church, you got to follow those, what you might call it, I can't think of the name right now, it doesn't matter, it's not important. I'm just curious. But this is Bible characters that fell through compromise, because they compromised their religion to fit either a secular worldview or whatever nonsense, or their own lusts or whatever, you know. Fell through compromise because you know, kind of like the liberal Christian. You know, they compromise their beliefs with science and all this stuff. How dare you do that, you liberal Christian? Because they're not real Christians, because they're not truly saved, which they're not. Then again, neither are anybody, because there's no such thing. But hey, it's okay. And of course, as always, feel free to check out the description below. You know, it has a link to my website. Feel free to check it out. A lot of good things there. And of course, feel free to like, subscribe, feel free to leave a comment, feel free to give a thumbs down, it doesn't matter. Feel free to share. Okay, let's do this. These Bible, of course I'm not going to read every single word, every single page, okay? So don't fret. These Bible characters fell through compromise by Dr. John R. Rice. How bad company, fellowship with unbelievers and enemies of the Bible led to ruin of pre-flood Christians, of Lot, Samson, Solomon, Asa, and Jehoshaphat, then of Peter in the New Testament. Oh, that's another thing. Christians believe that Moses and all these people were Christians. Muslims believe that they were all Muslims. Funny, ain't it? Abraham was a Christian if you're a Christian. Abraham was a Muslim if you're a Muslim. Hilarious, actually. Mechanically recorded as priest at Bob Jones University Chapel, October 6, 1958. A long time ago. Psalms 1:1. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. Blessed is the man who doesn't do three things. First, this blessed man doesn't walk with sinners, those who are ungodly, but walks along a road in a regular course as he goes about his business. Second, he does not stand in the way of sinners, that is, with people who are not only unconverted, but those who are living in outbroken sin. He won't stop in fellowship with them, because Christians are good. Third, he does not sit in the seat of the scornful. There's a progression in sin. One walks, then stands, then sits with the devil's crowd. First, you go along casually with the unsafe as you go about your business. Second, you stop and seek their company. Third, you become a critic as they are and take up their bad ways. Notice as you associate with the ungodly, the lost, you get to where you have no conscience about sin. Because those of us that aren't saved, we don't care about, we love the sin. We love to do all these horrible things. But Christians, no, they're just sweet, pious, wonderful people, caring, thoughtful. Never a bad thought, just sweet, kind people. But we sinners were evil and disgusting, especially if you're an atheist. And you run with outbroken sinners, and you scoff at the Bible and oppose those who stand for God and the Word. Liberal Christians kind of do that, though. It's true, liberal Christians do kind of scoff at the Bible. They scoff at their God, which makes you wonder, how the hell do you believe that stuff then? You know, like the flood, they'll deny the flood and deny creation. But that's what your Bible is teaching. Not only that, the New Testament, Peter Paul and Jesus all reaffirmed the flood. Jonah gets swallowed by a whale. And of course, Adam and Eve. What the hell? Old Testament scriptures clear and forbidding union of believers and unbelievers. The Old Testament has much to say regarding this, and I'm not going to go through all this crap. Diverse seeds, don't plant two different seeds, don't plow an ox and an ass together, don't wear two different type of garments. Remember, when you're arguing with a Christian that actually does understand their theology, which is going to be rare, and you say, well, you can't wear two different type of clothes, the clothes mix with two different things, you can't have an ox and an ass together, blah, 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 he's going to slap you down, because he knows what that means. Same with a Jew. You say that to a Jewish person, they're going to slap you down because they know what that means. It's a lesson for them not to associate with people who do not believe as they believe. It's basically symbolic, although they're not allowed to actually do it either. Of course, you know how it is, right? But don't tell a Christian, hey, you're not supposed to eat seafood and stuff like that, and or wear garments of two different things, because in the New Testament it makes it pretty clear. Or I don't remember. I think it's Acts. It might be in the book of Acts. I think it is in the book of Acts, where Jesus tells Paul that he can go ahead and eat whatever he wants. Basically, he sees a sheet of four-footed beasts, and Peter says, Jesus tells him get up and eat, and he says, no, I never put an unclean thing in my mouth. And Jesus said, you're not called the unclean. That I don't call what I have clean unclean. Basically, you can eat seafood and stuff now. So be careful when you argue with a Christian. Make sure you know what you're talking about first. Yeah, you're going to make mistakes. You're human. But remember, that Christian, you got to get every single thing right. You get one thing wrong, then you're wrong about everything. Because their minds aren't as developed as yours when it comes to thinking. Every time a Jew pulled his shirt over his head, he remembered, I can wear a linen shirt, blah, blah, blah. The point here is that this was ceremonial for the Jew, but for us Gentiles it is spiritual. God says we are to have circumcision in heart instead of circumcision in body. So on the matter of separation, Jews were not to wear garments mixed with wool and linen. They are not to sow their vineyards with diverse seeds. They were not to plow with an ox and ass hitched up together. Spiritually, they were not to yoke the ungodly with the godly. That same lesson is often repeated throughout the Bible. I do not have time to discuss the many New Testament scriptures on the matter, though we are very, very clearly commanded in Ephesians 5:11. Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. For 2 Corinthians 6:14, we are instructed, be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. Which I already did that pamphlet. In 2 John verse 9, we are clearly told, whosoever transgresseth and abideth not in the doctrine of Christ hath not God. Such a one is not converted, so we are not to receive him in our house or bid him Godspeed. Marriage of saved with lost led to spiritual decline that brought the flood. Now I cite some Bible cases to prove this sermon, because after all this is proof for his sermon, because he's quoting the Bible to prove the Bible. But that's proof of his sermon. First, the story before the flood and the reason for the flood given in Genesis chapter 6. We have just had the story here of two lines of descendants. You recall that Cain killed his brother Abel, and God gave another son to Adam and Eve, Seth, who was to take the place of Abel. As far as we can know, Seth had a godly line of people. Really, when you think about Cain and Abel, you read the story in Genesis, God never gives Cain and Abel any instructions on sacrifices or anything. Cain is working with the land. Abel's killing animals and giving it to God. They both give their stuff to God. God doesn't say, Cain, hey, I want you to sacrifice animals. No. He just simply says, I don't approve of what you're giving. I want to give my blessing to Abel more. And then, of course, pisses off Cain. Which you'd expect you would get pissed off too in a similar type of situation. Not necessarily to kill the person, but In chapter 6 we read, and it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of daughters saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with men, for that he's also his flesh. His days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of men came in to the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, sons of God, daughters of men. Saved people are sons of God, which of course the New Testament tells you that. Some have thought perhaps these were angels, but it seems they were born-again Christians of godly line of Seth. Born-again Christians? See what I'm talking about? Born-again Christians. They're Christians. Born again also. Then it came to pass when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they would bear children to them. The same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. Now what was the result? All the testimony was broken. Now God had no way to save the whole generation, a world gone into sin. He had no way to save. Isn't he supposed to be all powerful? The line between good and evil was blotted out. The line was broken down, the saved and the lost. And verse 5 through 7, God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And this includes babies, remember that. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I made them. Except for Noah and his family, God destroyed whole race, because there was no way left to save a generation when the saved people had sold out and intermarried with the devil's crowd, with the godless and wicked line of Cain. The whole race, the whole world was destroyed because Christians compromised, because they mixed in with the lost people and the devil's crowd. Christians, those were Christians back then, by the way. Christians, and God could not save them. God can do anything, but he couldn't save these people without murdering everybody and every animal and everything. Wow. Lot moved into Sodom and ruined this city, his family, and himself. The case of Lot is familiar to us all. But I briefly call it to your attention. Lot had the best of backgrounds. Oh yeah, before Sodom, it kind of makes it clear for Sodom got destroyed not necessarily because of homosexuality, but because they were not hospitable. Because back then, they get pretty pissy about that. And if you go to the Bible Reloaded, watch some of their early ones when they're doing the Bible, they discuss it better than I will. We have good reason to believe that he was a Christian and a good man. In fact, in 2 Peter chapter 2, he's called the righteous man who vexed his righteous soul from day to day with their unlawful deeds. Lot's called a righteous man, a just man, a godly man. So he was a Christian. He was a Christian. Unless you're a Muslim, then he's a Muslim. And the scripture says, the Lord knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptation. And he led Lot out. Abraham dwelt in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain of pitch, his tent toward Sodom. I cannot go into detail, but every person we mention here in the Bible, there was a gradual decay, a gradual letting down of the bars, one step back and then two steps back. Little by little there was compromise. This godly man Lot lived out in the plains, and he thought he ought to move in a little closer. So day by day he moved closer and closer. And pretty soon when we see Lot, we see him in the midst of Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. That includes the babies now. In chapter 9 we get a look into Sodom. Two angels have come to Sodom, blah blah blah, you know the story. And so Lot left behind his married children who didn't believe him, and his sons-in-law. He left behind his wife, who turned to a bitter salt, only taking with him his two single daughters, which he screwed. He got drunk and screwed them both and got them pregnant. Spirit-filled, strong man Samson was led to blindness and slavery by association with Delilah. The next case I mentioned is Samson. That story is familiar to most of you. Samson was a man of God. I went through Judges chapter 15 and 16 this morning, and I noticed how again and again the Spirit of the Lord came mightily on Samson. Samson's strength was the strength of a man with a miracle on him. It's like Hercules. That's what I thought of, when I first read the story of Samson nearly 40 years ago, I thought of Hercules. Samson's strength was his long hair was the sign of a vow. I'm not saying they copied this from Hercules. No. There's just some similarities. You just expect similarities sometimes, Throughout the world, you expect some myths have some similarities. And they all do, actually. You read some myths, even Native American myths have some similarities with some myths you find in Europe or Asia or Africa. It's just how it is, It's only so much you can make up. I notice how again, Spirit of the Lord, blah, blah. His long hair was a sign of a vow. The vow of a Nazarite. Separating him wholly to God. Yes, the power of God was on Samson's. Samson, Judges 16:4 tells us, it came to pass afterward that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. Now here's a strange thing. which I do not undertake to explain. As far as we can tell, God did not forsake Samson primarily because of the sins of the flesh, though there were some very shocking ones, but God forsook him because he sold out on a separation with an ungodly heathen woman. When he told her his secret, he somewhat put his vow as a Nazarite at her mercy. So on the matter of separation, back up to God, quit Samson, and he wist not that the Lord was departed from him. Verse 20, the Philistines captured him, poked out his eyes, put him grinding at a mill as a donkey, and went to report it in the house of their God that our God had overcome. No, their God overcame because God's man sold out, bringing him to a terrible, terrible end. Notice again that it was little by little progression in sin, so that at the end it was ruin. I am often asked, is it wrong to yoke up with unbelievers? Some who do so are being blessed. Yes, but you haven't seen the end of the story. Follow Lot and wait till the end. Follow Samson and wait till the end. One can't tell by first appearance how things will turn out. Often have people ask, if it is wrong to yoke up with unbelievers, why doesn't God slap them down right now? Think about that. Would you want God to slap you down the first time you made a mistake, the first time you went wrong? Wouldn't you rather God have mercy on you? Wouldn't you rather God would be long-suffering toward you, slow to anger and plenteous in mercy? Wouldn't you rather God would give you a chance to deal kindly with you? Oh, the mercy of God. He waits so long before he brings judgment on the child of God who compromises. But God does bring judgment. It was so with Samson. Solomon married heathen women, then followed them in idolatry. There's a sad story of the compromise of King Solomon in 1 Kings chapter 11. Solomon had everything in his favor. First, he was a favorite son of King David. David was a man after God's own heart. Yeah, good role model. You know, a genocidal maniac like David. He fell into sin in one grave instance and suffered terribly from it. But at least we can say this for David. He was out and out for God. Solomon then came to the throne and God blessed him. God said in a dream one night, Solomon, what do you want? Long life? What do you want? Want great wealth? What do you want? A big empire? Solomon's answer was, I am only a child. Oh God, give me wisdom to judge this great people. So God told him he would do that. If he had that type of wisdom, why is he screwed up? So there came a divine wisdom on Solomon. That's all wisdom, which is now recorded in the Proverbs. Now, if you read Proverbs and the Psalms, some of them really are just nonsense. That wisdom which made him the greatest emperor of his time. I mean, divine wisdom. I don't know. I think the Chinese has some pretty good freaking emperors. You know, just throwing that out there. I mean, spiritual wisdom is the highest possible sense. I do not wonder that the Queen of Sheba said, behold, the half was not told me, thy wisdom and prosperity exceedeth the fame which I heard. I am saying that Solomon was a noble, good man. But King Solomon loved many strange women, foreign women, together with his daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites. Blah, blah, blah. You know, he gave onto them in love and all that crap. Now, Solomon was wise, and no doubt he thought that a good rule for a common man. No doubt Solomon thought if a man wasn't really spiritual, or wasn't a real king anointed of God, or wasn't a real evangelist, or he wasn't a mature Christian or something else, that is a good rule for others. But I have to maintain this kingdom, and the safest way to keep peace with Pharaoh is to marry his daughter, and the safest way to please the Ammonites is to marry one of the daughters of the king. So it wasn't long until he had made alliances and treaties, and all those treaties were backed by intermarriage. He had a great host of women. Solomon intermarried with these heathen women. Wow. You know, we're not going to read all this crap, Molech and all that. He basically started worshiping Molech and all these other gods and banging all these women, you know. Now, here's the same truth as before judgment. Judgment did not come immediately. Solomon went on and reigned and gained great power. He had great wealth such as no king since his time. I wouldn't go that far. His kingdom extended all the way to the Euphrates and Tigris rivers, then to the Mediterranean Sea, and as far south, even to the borders of Egypt on the west. Yes, Solomon had a great kingdom, but little by little he went further into sin. God didn't immediately strike him down. In fact, for David's sake, God said, I won't do this in your lifetime, but I am angry with you. It is the same old sad story. So basically he goes after his son. First God says, you know, well, not exactly here, but Ezekiel, I think it's 18 something, maybe. You know, the father should, no, it's in Deuteronomy also. The son should not suffer for the sins of the father should not suffer for the sins of the son. But apparently God can do whatever he wants, you know. He could screw you over, or your children. In the long run, you can be sure that your sin will find you out. The Bible says about liquor, at least at the last, it biteth like a serpent, not at first, but at last. And the Bible says about the harlot woman, but her end is bitter as wormwood, not as the beginning, but at the end. Sin, when it is finished, brings forth death, not at the beginning, but at the end. Obviously, it wouldn't be the end otherwise. When King Asa made agreement with wicked Ben-Hadad, he lost God's favor. This too is a sad case, the case of Asa, recorded in 2 Chronicles chapter 15. There is much good said about King Asa. In fact, an amazing amount of good things were said about this man. No doubt he was a good man who loved God. Of course, he doesn't say he was a Christian or a Muslim, depending on which one. Well, actually, the Muslims actually, in their Quran, actually rebuke the Jews for adding their history and stuff. Basically, God is angry with you for adding your history to your holy book and lying. You're all liars and this and that. God's going to punish you. And amazing religion, amazing thing this religion thing is. Asa's army was just a little one, but God blessed him, and they defeated the Ethiopians. Right here, it's chapter 15, the Lord talks about Asa and tells how he set out to serve God. Then there came out against Asa a great Ethiopian army, 1,000. He said in chapter 14, Lord, it is nothing with thee to help, whether with many or with them they have no power. Then the power of God came by Azariah, and he said, Lord is with you while you be with him. And if you seek him, he will be found of you. But if you forsake him, he will forsake you. When Asa heard these words in the prophecy of Oded, the prophet, he took courage and put away the abominable idols, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to go through all that. But, listen, a good man was Asa, but came trouble. Baasha and the northern kingdom took some of the cities, and he and Asa were going to have war. So Asa said to Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, and said, there's a link between me and thee, as there was between my father and thy father. Basically, he went and made a league with another king of Syria to go to war against the northern kingdom. So he loses God's favor. God gets pissed at him. It's like, why not come to me instead? And of course, if this guy actually went to God to defeat the Ethiopians, it kind of would make sense that this king would have went to God to defeat this northern kingdom guy. Now verses 7 and 8 says, at that time Hanani the seer watched that good man Hanani, his boy will make a good man. You will listen to him. Came to Asa king of Judah and said unto him, because thou hast relied on the king of Syria and had not relied on the Lord thy God. Therefore it is the host of the king of Syria escaped out of thine hand. Were it not the Ethiopians and the Lubans, a great huge host, with very many chariots and horsemen. Yet because thou didst rely on the Lord, he delivered them into thine hand. Listen, one had better rely on God instead of a martyrness. Basically, don't listen to these liberal preachers and all that. Don't go listen to a psychologist. Don't listen to your professors. Don't listen to your social justice warrior professors. Don't do that. I'm talking about your science professors when they're talking based on science, not when they're giving their opinions. Don't listen to other people's opinions. But don't ask people for their opinions either, is what they're telling you. Go to God, because God will answer you. Like Asa, Jehoshaphat helped the ungodly and loved those who hated the Lord. Asa had a boy named Jehoshaphat. Most of the time, Jehoshaphat followed his father in good things. Many wonderful things are told us about Jehoshaphat. I will call attention to some of them, which we don't need to go through all of them. Okay? But what did Jehoshaphat do? Basically, he made an alliance with King Ahab. You didn't even know Ahab. He had that horrible woman, Jezebel. Horrible woman because she had, came from another province. She was a Philistine or whatever the hell she was. And so she obviously is going to have different customs. So she's evil because she has different customs and does things differently, has different beliefs. Like, Ahab wanted somebody's land that was next to his, and the guy said, no, I can't sell it because it was in my family for all these times, and I can't. And Ahab, is pissed, but doesn't take it because it's kind of forbidden for him to do it. But Jezebel comes from another land, Philistines, where, the king has absolute rule and can take land from anyone. Tells him, wait, just take the land, you're a king, you idiot. And so he does it, basically has a guy set up to blaspheme God and then takes his land. I'm not saying Jezebel was a good person. She was nasty. But, Ahab shouldn't have married somebody who wasn't from his religion. Think about that. because they're all evil and bad. And of course, Jehoshaphat doesn't listen to him. Micaiah gets killed in the battle because he doesn't believe it. Jehoshaphat, it was okay. Peter lied, cursed, and denied the Savior. God meant Christians to pay particular attention to this tragic case. The story of Peter, some of you, denies Christ. And depending on which book of the gospel, once, twice, or 3 times. Jesus tells him, before the cock crows, you go deny me thrice. And there's 3 different verses in each gospel. None of the gospels agree on how many times he denies Christ. He even curses and everything, and just does what he does, And here's: once a drunkard was saved in a Sam Jones revival. After years of long habit, he still tried his horse at the hitching rack in front of the saloon when he went to town. He tied his horse. So you know how long this story is. Sam Jones told him, if you're going to live a Christian life, you will have to seek a new hitching rack. The man who ties his horse in front of the saloon will soon be going into the saloon. And the man who warms his hands by the devil's fire will soon be falling to the devil's temptation. So bad company has pardoned Peter's shameful and scandalous backsliding. Then, and you can get these at Sword of the Lord. SwordofTheLord.com. And as always, feel free to check out the description and for any of my for link to my website. Feel free to like, subscribe, leave a comment, share. Feel free to give a thumbs down too if you disagree with anything I said or if you're a religious person. Thanks.